Reggie here, and I want to welcome you to another one of my videos. In this video, we are going to run down the top 10 most submitted books into CGC. Because we have so many new people, I want to provide a little bit of background on this video. I basically get a list of the top 20 most submitted books in to CGC directly from CGC. I then combine that list with some sales data and census data from Go Collect, and then I add in a little bit of my own anecdotal evidence in order to create this video every single month. I will tell you that there are some interesting things that are happening in the data, but we will talk about that a little bit later in this video. Before we get to the list, I want to take a moment to thank the sponsor of this video, Hip Comic. If you are not familiar with Hip Comic, I encourage you to check them out. This is a great platform for both buyers and sellers. It is built for collectors, by collectors, and they have everything that you would imagine. They have auctions and they have regular sales that are happening every single day. There is a link in the description. I encourage you to check them out. Hip Comic, you cannot go wrong. With that said, let's get to the list. Number 10 on the list is Nice House on a Lake issue number 1. This is the one and only DC book that has made the list. This also marks the third month that this book has made the list in the 10th spot. The census count is roughly the same as the last video, sitting at 3,384 total graded copies. The total number of graded 9.8s has increased slightly, but the FMV has slipped $5 to $90, and the 30-day average has also decreased $3 to $48. Number 9 on the list is Venom Lethal Protector issue number 1, and this book has actually slipped one spot on the list. Now what's interesting here is that it appears that there could be fewer submissions of this book into CGC, or it could simply be a timing factor. Timing between the last video that I released and this video affecting the overall number of submissions that we are seeing. This is something that we're going to have to keep our eye on. To that point, the census count from the last video to this video has only increased by 332 copies to rest at 16,812 total graded copies. Last month, the census increase was 776 total copies month over month. The FMV for this book has also dropped an additional $10 to $120, which is close to the 30-day average of $126. Number 8 on the list is Spawn's Universe, the one-shot, and this book is also down one spot on the list. The 30-day average for this book has also dropped for the 9.8. The current 30-day average is $33. Based upon the most recent sales at $26, my feeling is that we will continue to see the value of this book decline if it makes the list. Number 7 on the list is Amazing Spider-Man issue 361, the first appearance of Carnage. The 30-day average of this book has dropped $34 to $476 for a 9.8. The 3 most recent sales for this book have averaged $421, so my guess is that we will continue to see erosion on the value of this book as well. Given the rate of submission, I expect to see this book on the list in subsequent months, and I say that because this book is almost always on the list. Number 6 on the list is the first appearance of Omega Red. We are specifically talking about X-Men issue number 4, volume 2. This book has moved up from the 9th spot last month to currently sit in the 6th spot. Like other books on the list, the value of this book has also declined. The current fair market value is $150, and the 30-day average is $147 for a 9.8. The number of submissions from this video to the last also appear to be down, but this could be the timing issue that I mentioned earlier in the video. It's really difficult to make heads or tails of this list when you specifically look at the top 10, and more importantly, when you look at what's happened in the top 10 over the last 3 months. And I say that because the list for the last 3 months has been nearly identical. There's been some shifts here and there, but when you take a step back from the last 3 months and you look at the expanded list of 20 total books that are going in, there is something that is happening, and I don't quite know what to make of it, but it is an interesting data point that I wanted to highlight for you. One of the things that I've noticed is that there appear to be more newer books showing up on the list. In April, the list was comprised of 3 books from the 2000s, 9 from the 90s, and 8 from the 70s and the 80s, with most of those coming from the 80s. In May, June, and July, the list is split evenly with 7 books from the 2000s, 7 from the 90s, and 6 from the 80s. And as I mentioned, I'm not quite sure what to make of this, but it appears that maybe there's going to be a shift towards newer books going into CGC versus books from the 90s, 80s, and 70s. This is definitely something that we're going to have to keep an eye on, because will it be a trend, or is this a momentary blip? Too soon to tell. Number 5 on the list is X-Men #1 Volume 2 from 1991. The census count of this book has increased by 667 copies, and about half of the total graded copies on the census are 9.8s. My guess is that we may see this book slide off the list now that the Jim Lee signing has wrapped up. But with that said, the FMV and the 30-day average for this book remain down but stable. The current FMV is $90 and the 30-day average is sitting at $88. Number 4 yet again is Moon Knight issue #1 from 1980, and this is the first self-titled and ongoing series featuring Moon Knight. The current census count has grown to 9,366 total graded copies. The 30-day average sales price has increased to $455 for the 9.8, slightly ahead of the fair market value at $450. Number 3 is another Todd McFarlane book. This is Spawn issue #1, a book that just stays on the list every single month after month. With that said, this is a book that is continuing to hold its value. The average sales price and FMV are nearly identical at $180, which means that the 30-day average has only declined $6 since the last video. The current census count for this book, 24,203 total graded copies. Number 2 is Miles Morales issue #30 from the BAM box. There are a total of 697 total graded copies of this book on the census, with 2 of them being a blue label. The yellow labels at a 9.8 have a current 30-day average of $138. Number 1, yet again, is Ultimate Fallout issue #1, the facsimile edition. The 9.8 of this book appears to be holding its value at a $53 30-day average sales price. At present, there are 1,952 total graded copies of this book on the census. So there you have it. That is the rundown of the top 10 most submitted books into CGC for the month of July. I hope that you all enjoyed this video, and I hope that you will take some time to visit our friends over at Hip Comic using the link in the description. As always, if you need to reach out to me, feel free to do so on Instagram at Regie Collects. Take care.